In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to play slash chords. This video has a couple of prerequisites. Number one, you know all the open string names. So this is the low E, this is the A, this is the D, etc. Additionally, you know all of the basic chords. So if I said play a G chord, you can do that. You can play D, E minor. You know, you've got all those basic open cowboy chords down. Now, the other big one is you know how to find notes on the guitar. I did an entire video on this, and I really encourage you to watch that video first. It's going to make this video make sense. So make sure you watch that one first. I'll link it above my head somewhere. And I'm just going to do a quick review. This is basically what we talked about in that video. First of all, we're only going to find notes in this 3-fret box right here. So in other words, we're not going to find any notes past the 3rd fret. We're going to stay right here, keep it limited. That keeps it a little simpler. And what we did was we would just start on one of the open strings. So let's just say low E. All you have to do is find E on the keyboard, and we would walk up the notes by half steps or one piano key at a time. So we would say this is an E. We would say this is an F because it's the next key. We'd say this was an F sharp. And then finally we would say this is a G. And you can see as I walk up the keys, I'm walking up the frets as well. Let's just do one more string for this review. Let's do the A string. So this is the open A string. You find that on the keyboard. And let's walk up by half steps. We're gonna go A. Let's call this black key a B flat, and that's fret number 1. Let's walk up to the B key, and then we walk up to C. So that's a quick review. Watch that video if that's not really comfortable. Now, before we get into slash chords, let's talk about standard chords first. When you do a standard chord like an E, it doesn't even matter if you do an E major or an E minor. I'm doing an E major here. What's important is, why do they call that an E chord? Well, it's named after the most foundational note, and that's the lowest note. It's the bass note. And if you really look at it, when you play an E, the lowest note you're playing is the low E. It's the same thing for a G. Let's grab a G chord. And with our note finding exercise, we start on an open E and we walk up to F, F sharp, G. That's why it's called a G chord, because the bass note, the lowest note, is a G. Just to switch it up a little bit, let's do a minor. So right here I'm playing an A minor, and the lowest note I'm strumming is this open A string. That's why it has an A for its name, and it's minor because it's got that sad sound. But like I said, major and minor doesn't really matter for us right now. The most important thing is that these chords are named after their lowest note. Let's finish the exercise with one more example. So a C chord. So look at the lowest note I'm playing. And again, if you did our note finding exercise, let's go ahead and find this. A, B flat, B, C. So that's why it's called a C. That's the lowest note in the chord. It's really important to understand bass notes and how to find notes on the fretboard, because that's going to come into play for our slash chords. Let's look at a slash chord first. Basically, it's made up of 2 parts. You've got a left side and a right side. So the first thing you want to do when you see a slash chord is focus on the left side. The left side is telling you what chord to do. So in this example, it's a C/E chord. So don't worry about the E. Look at the C first. So let's go ahead and grab that. And now we know the bass note is right here. It's a C, and it's the lowest note of the chord. Now that we've taken care of the left side of the chord, let's go over to the right side. The right side is telling you put E in the bass. So going from left to right, it's a C chord with E in the bass. You can think of the slash as the word with. So I'm doing a C chord already. How can I put E in the bass? Well, I've got a low E available right here. So a C/E chord is going to be, it's a C chord with E in the bass. Let's try a different example. Let's try a C/G. So it's good to look at the chord and speak it out loud. It's a C with G in the bass. So first, let's do a C chord. And now we have to put G in the bass. Now where can G go? Here's your system. Start on the low E string and see if you can find a G. Since we're trying to put this note in the bass, we're trying to make it the lowest note of the chord, it makes sense to start on the lowest string. So let's see if we can find it. So I'll start on a low E. We walk up a half step to F, F sharp, and we have a G right here. All right, so the third fret of the low E string is a G. So watch, I'll do a C chord. And there's a couple of options here. You can take your ring finger and you can put it on the third fret of the low E, that's our G. So that's now a C chord with G as the bass note. The other option is, instead of your ring finger, I want to grab the third fret of the low E string with that ring finger. So let me go ahead and free it up and I'll replace it with my pinky, and then I'll sneak my ring finger down on that third fret note, that G. Let's try another chord. It's just great to do these as exercises to make sure we have this concept down. Let's look at a D/F sharp chord. First things first, grab your D chord. All right, now we have to put F sharp in the bass. So let's use our system. Let's go to the lowest string and see if we can grab an F sharp here. Is an F sharp even available? So we go low E, half step up to F. F sharp is right there on the second fret. So what you could do is grab your D chord, and then your thumb is right there for the F sharp. This is a D with F sharp in the bass. If you have trouble with this fingering, I did an entire video on this chord because it shows up in so many songs and a lot of people have trouble with it. So check out that video if you want to get better at the D/F sharp chord. Let's keep going. We have to challenge ourselves with a couple of harder examples. So we're going to try a G/B chord now. Let's work the system. So first, do the chord, G. Now we're hunting for a B note here that we can put in the bass. Can we do it on the lowest string? Well, let's try. Start on an E, work up to F, F sharp, G. And like I said, we're not going past the third fret for today. So we didn't find a B. Let's go to the next string. So that would be open A, half step up to that black key, B flat, and then half step up, B. So how do you do a G/B? You start your strumming on the A string where you're grabbing a B. So originally I was doing a G, and I was holding a G note there with my middle finger. I just lift my middle finger off and I don't play the E string at all. My bass note, my lowest note, is on the A string. It's that B I'm grabbing. We're gonna do the dreaded F chord. We're gonna keep it simple. We're gonna do the 3-note, 3-finger version. The chord is F/C, so we have to put C in the bass. Let's work our system here. Start on the low E, E, F, F sharp, G. Now there's no C available. Let's go to the A, B flat, B, C. Okay, so let's go back to our F. We know our target note here, our bass note, has to be third fret of the A string. So go ahead and grab your F. And we're in a really similar situation as C/G. What you can do is you could just move your ring finger to the C, and you can kind of mute the D string here so it's not ringing open. Okay. The other thing you could do is you could just trade this note right here with your pinky finger. Now my ring finger is freed up and I can grab the 3rd fret. There's a C note and I've got my F kind of right under it. And that's my F with C in the bass. And now let's take on one that might be difficult, might throw you off, but that's a good thing because it's really going to test our grasp of this concept. Let's do a D minor with F in the bass. Grab your D minor chord, play it as usual. Let's go to the low E string, E, F. We've already found it. And you can just strum down the strings like that, and that's your D minor with F in the bass. See, even the examples that look scary are not scary because of our system. So let's recap everything because we're getting a little deeper into the theory. Number one, you have to know the names of all the open strings, the letter names. Number two, you have to know all of your basic open cowboy chords. Number three, you have to be able to easily find notes on the guitar up to the 3rd fret on any string. Once you can do that, you are well equipped to put our slash chord system in action. First, find the chord on the left side of the slash. Then, find the bass note on the right side of the slash, and you're always going to start on the low E string and just work your way up the strings until you're able to find that bass note. From there, sometimes you have to mess around with the fingering and things like that, but it's going to work for you every time. Let me give you a tip if you run into a slash chord and you're not sure how to play it for whatever reason. Well, the tip is just play the regular chord on the left side of the slash. So let's say I came across like a C with G in the bass, and for whatever reason, my head got mixed up and I just couldn't find it. Well, just play the C chord. Whatever song it is that you're playing, the slash chord will probably sound more accurate, but if you can't do that and you just do the standard version of the chord, it's going to sound fine. You'll be okay. So that's it. I hope that was helpful. If you enjoyed the lesson, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave me a comment, and I'll see you in the next one.